We're going to change up a little bit on the agenda and recognize the mayor first. Please, if you would, he's got one announcement and the proclamation. So,
Ms. Arnold, if you could come up, please. Moms demand action. We can all identify with that, can't we? Moms demand action. That could apply to a lot of things, but I know you're here for a little different reason than what I'm thinking right there. I want to present you with this proclamation on behalf of the city, and I'm going to read a portion of it and let the folks in the audience know what Moms Demand Action is all about. This is about National Gun Violence Awareness Day. The proclamation declares that June the 2nd, 2018 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the city of Irondale, to honor and remember all victims and survivors of gun violence, and to declare that we as a country must do more to reduce gun violence. Whereas every day 93 Americans are killed by gun violence and more than 200 have sustained non-fatal firearm injuries over the last 5 years, and whereas protecting public safety in communities that we serve is the mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas support for Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns out of the hands of dangerous people. Whereas anyone can join this campaign by pledging to wear orange on June the 2nd to help raise awareness in gun violence. And whereas by wearing orange on June 2nd, Americans will raise awareness about gun violence and honor the lives of those lost. And whereas we renew our commitment to reduce gun violence and to pledge to do all we can to keep firearms out of the wrong hands and encourage responsible gun ownership to keep our children safe. Now therefore be it resolved that Mayor Charles Moore, City of Irondale, declares June the 2nd, 2018 to be National Gun Violence Awareness Day. I encourage all citizens to support their local communities' efforts to prevent the tragic effects of gun violence and to honor and value human lives. Charles Moore.
Thank you very much.
I will say to you too, we have an excellent program. Chief, if you raise your hand back there. This reminds me of what you just had going on Saturday as a part of our police academy. We actually had training at the range for some of our residents who signed up for the Citizens Police Academy. That is usually offered twice a year, and you'll be hearing an announcement for when the fall date is coming up. It's really some good practical stuff. So if you have firearms, if you shoot firearms, if you want to learn about it, and want to learn about gun safety, that's the place to do it. Have professional trainers that are there that do an excellent job providing that service to our residents. Now, switching gears, I have another recognition to make. I'd like Joshua McDaniel to come up, please, and Christine, if you will come with him. You didn't know that, did you?
thank you.
So let me give you a little bit of background here. Josh, you have some of your family here and your grandparents here. You want to call out the names of the folks that are here?
Charles and Peggy McDaniels, my grandparents, and Rick and Alan McDaniel, they're my uncles.
Thank you all for being here. So I understand you're a product of Irondale. You graduated from Irondale Shades Valley High School, right?
Yes, sir. I've lived in Irondale most of my 35 years. Moved away a few times, but I always found my way back. I'm kind of like that cat that always comes back. So I've lived here for majority of my life. So. Yeah.
Good. Well, it looks a little too young to say about 35 years, doesn't it? But it goes by quickly. Some of your uncles can tell you about that. I know your grandparents are here because they think you're being recognized for being a graduate of Shades Valley High School, and I know you're proud of him, aren't you, for all the good that he's done. He's also been a firefighter at Trustful and at Leeds for nearly 15 years now. Is the assistant fire chief at Leeds, and it just so happens that we're looking for a fire chief, and I'm here to announce to you today that I'm happy to announce that Chief Josh McDaniel is going to be our new fire chief. We'll be officially swearing him in at the next council meeting, but I wanted to announce it because these folks around here cannot keep a secret. I'm just going to tell you. So congratulations. know that, or at least his grandparents
My
didn't know
grandparents.
that.
First of all, just thank all you for being here. I didn't know we'd have this turnout for me, but guys, I'm excited about this opportunity. I've always loved Irondale. Like I said, I've moved away a few times. Some were not my choice because it's where my parents told me we were going. So I've always enjoyed coming back to Irondale, and this is just great for me and my family, and we're looking forward to this opportunity, just becoming a bigger part of the community. So I look forward to seeing you guys out at events and things like that. And of course, if there's ever anything you need, I'm available. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief Doss. It's always nice when we can recognize our own folks, isn't it? And when they grow into these positions. I know James's daughter is an author, and she's been recognized here. And we had one that's the most valuable player on the University of Alabama football team. That's was a resident of Irondale, and then the young lady that was at Mississippi State that was kind of the MVP of the last couple of years there. So it's always nice when we have our own folks coming back and representing us well where they are, but also coming back and serving. So thank you, sir, for agreeing to do that.
Thank you, Mayor. If you don't mind, I'm going to talk through a few.
And let me just say, Chief, if your family wants to leave, or you're welcome to sit through the rest of this meeting, but I suspect they'd probably rather be celebrating with you.
I think that was a yes. Thank you all for being here. Appreciate it. If some of the individuals standing in the back of the room would please come up and fill in. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seats on the front. We need to keep the aisles as clear as possible, so we appreciate some of you moving forward. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much for doing that. Just quickly to the council, if during the hearing, if you would please not start a discussion. This is a hearing for us to listen. If you have any questions or comments, please hold that for when we get into the old business, actually before we vote. So if you will, please just listen, make your notes, and be ready to find additional information if you need to at that point. And that will help us get through. We have limited room capacity, so I would ask if you do come up to the mic and make a comment. If you're seated, would you please try to go to the hall and let someone else come in the room that may want to make a comment. I will listen to comments up to a point. If we start hearing redundancy, they're probably going much beyond 30 minutes or so. We'll try to move on because we've heard everything, but we do have the roll where everybody signed in. I will share that with the council before we do any voting. I will also use that as a method to recognize people that come forward to speak. The other thing, when you come up to the mic, if you would please, there was a form that was handed out that has personal information on it that you need to give to the city clerk when you come forward. If you would please hand that to him. If you don't have one, there's some more in the back of the room. And when you come to the mic, you will be timed. We're going by the actual resolution that's been on the books at the city for years, and that's a 2-minute time frame. So don't feel like you're being cut off. You're basically here to say you're in support, or you're basically here to say you're not in support. And please state very succinctly why, one way or the other. The other thing I would ask, if you're multiple people here representing one entity, would one of you please take the point for that entity rather than having repetitive from that same group. So, for example, if we have one company and 5 representatives, would one member of that company come forward and make the comments for that company? If you're an individual, that's different. The other thing is when you come up, please do go to the mic. Please do face the council to make your comments. And again, if I cut you off at the end of 2 minutes, don't feel insulted. That's just part of the Robert's rules for tonight, so we can hopefully get as many people forward as possible and get their comments before we do anything else. So at this point, do I have a motion?
I make a motion that we leave regular council meeting and we go into public hearing.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Notice is hereby given that a public special meeting beginning at 6 p.m. on Tuesday, May 29, 2018, in the City Council chambers in City Hall of the City of Irondale, located at 101 20th Street South, Irondale, Alabama. The City Council of the City of Irondale will hear comments from interested citizens concerning an occupational license fee for persons engaged in trades, occupations, and professions, and the method of reporting and collecting the same. With that comment, I'm going to go to the actual signing list that's brought forward. And we have a representative here initially from Alabama Air Systems. I'd like to recognize them if they'd like to come forward, please. And I will start the time. Can you give Mr. Stewart your paperwork and get the mic? Thank you very much. Thank you, sir.
Double check and see if that's, I thought I had on the old position.
No, sir.
Okay. Does either one of you gentlemen own the old business in Irondale?
You know,
Do you? Well, how can y'all sit there and tell us what's good for business owners in Irondale? About for their employees. I've been in Irondale for 33 years. And I don't think this is very funny. I think this is very serious, me being here. I represent my employees, and it's just not fair, especially if you don't have to y'all and not own your business and tell us what to do. And we're concerned about the other councilmen or other people who's not here also. And one thing that disturbs me is that your mayor's had it at AL.com and several other places that the city of Birmingham had occupational tax and it has never affected them. Well, when the city of Birmingham and Huntsville's got it, not the city of Birmingham. You think Irondale's got trouble now, or having financial problems, says that's what's brought this about, then you wait till you have an occupational tax. At that point, you got problems. And I do not appreciate that gentleman right there laughing at me when I first started talking. I don't think that was fair, and I don't like that. So now I'm a concerned business owner here, and I think you should give me a little more respect for that.
Sir, I don't believe I was laughing at you, but thank you.
I
And if I did, my
you looked at me
apologies.
right when you did it. I'm here being serious.
My apologies if you thought I was laughing at you.
Well, you
This
was
is
looking
it.
straight
But
at me
thank
when
you.
you was laughing.
Thank you. Leave your next in.
Turn on the mic.
Can you hear the mic now?
It's not very loud.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
I'd like to mention that Council Member Bobby Joe Wilson mentioned at the last City Council meeting that he had concerns with the transparency, the city's financial transparency regarding this occupational tax ordinance. And let me explain why I too have concerns. First, there's been much talk about the $1.6 million deficit at the end of the city's fiscal year for 2018. However, it's disingenuous to leave out the fact that the city has $2.9 million in reserves to offset the deficit. Secondly, you stated that the city of Irondale will have another large deficit at the end of the 2019 fiscal year. Here again, it is disingenuous to make this claim when you have not prepared or approved the city's 2019 budget to determine how large the deficit will be. Thirdly, during the Finance Committee work sessions, There were some members that stated that all the departments in the city were making drastic cuts for 2019. However, the only way to determine if drastic cuts have been made is by comparing each department's actual total expenditures in 2018 and comparing them with the budget expenditures of each department for 2019. Because neither of these are available for review, it is no surprise that your credibility is being questioned. Fourthly, during the Finance Committee work session held on Monday, April 30th, 2018, Councilman Bearden proposed an alternative plan for raising revenue for the city. He proposed raising the sales tax rate for vehicles from 1.5% to 2%.
Cindy.
And he noted that this small increase would raise an additional $1 million in revenue. He also noted that the increase would not put Irondale at a disadvantage with other municipalities because their sales tax rate for vehicles is 2%. Why not invite representatives from each of the car dealerships to come in as a group and come up with final financial rebates for the city that can serve as a means of helping the city during this financial crisis, and avoid raising the sales tax rate for vehicles from 1.5% to 2%. You may want to consider doing this with other business leaders of large businesses. Invite them to come in and propose some rebates. Thank
If
you.
you could, please. Thank you. Do we have an official representative that would like to speak on behalf of Motion Industries? I see several names down listed for Motion Industries. Please.
Hi. In my opinion, what we have here is taxation without representation, because you're picking on people who are unlikely to be able to vote you out of office should you elect to do this. And you're doing a number of things that are harmful to the business industry or the business climate in the area. 50% of the households in the United States earn $50,000 or less. You're unfairly penalizing people who are barely working poor. You're taking 1% out of their pockets because you can't manage your spending. When I can't manage spending at my house, I cut back and spend what I need to get things done. You're also making a climate where it's difficult to recruit. It's hard enough to sell Irondale to millennials when we're trying to recruit people into this area. Having them tell them that they're going to make 1% less than people down the street just make it that much more difficult for us to pull people in here. And the people who work in areas such as fast food or retail, they can go down the street and get a 1% raise. It's going to increase costs, turnover for everyone around. What happens when, say, Walmart moves out of the city? You're just going to look at it as a piggy bank and raise this to 2%, 3%? I don't think you're thinking this through. You're creating a climate that's going to destroy business.
If y'all will, please, this is not a meeting where you applaud. It's just listen, please, present yourself. This is not an official meeting. We did not have to have this hearing, but it was done to let the people have their say. There was no legal reason to have it. But please, no clapping, no comments. Let the people speak, and then we'll go forward from there if you would. Do I have someone from the Bates, Robertson folks group, please? Great, you ready?
Yes,
Thank
I
you so
am.
much, sir.
Well, wanted to thank you, Councilman Marino, for giving us the opportunity to business owners to speak this evening, and I want to thank the council and mayor for that. I know you've been kind of dealt a difficult situation through no fault of your own, but I am opposed to the occupational tax. One of the things I did, I wish I had a little more time, but I came through with 9 points. One thing I calculated is the revenue, like the payroll revenue. You got 735 businesses in Irondale. The average owner makes $100,000. Then you add to that, there's 7,300 employees, let's say the average salary is $35,000. That gives you $302 million in payroll. So you take 1% of that, that's going to give you $3 million. We don't need $3 million. A couple other things. I think the city should start raising the taxes on vacant buildings. City of Washington, D.C. has done that, and they didn't just double or triple it. They raised it by 20-fold, 20 times the regular property tax amount, and that's really helped the city of Washington, D.C. The other thing, I think the city should look at the things they spend money on. I noticed here in looking at the budget last year, the city spent $375,000 on consulting fees. That seems excessive. It's been 22 years since the city of Irondale has had a property tax rate increase. All the cities that surround us, Mount Brook, Vestavia, Trustful, City of Birmingham, have higher property tax rates. I think the city should, instead of trying to rush all this through, maybe send out a letter to the citizens and just let them know the predicament the city's facing, and maybe have to re-vote on the property tax. Instead of a 6 mil increase, go with a 3 mil increase. The other thing is on the cars of these auto dealerships out there. I mean, if somebody can pay $75,000 or $80,000 for a car, what's wrong with adding an extra 1%? So those are just some of my points, and again, thank you all. I do appreciate you.
Appreciate it, Mr. Baker. Thank you. Do we have someone representing Wood Creek that would like to speak? Mr. Wood.
James, while he's coming, do we not have the budget on the bulletin board still? I know the last council meeting we had, there was a copy of the budget on the bulletin board.
Those were the expenses for the last 2 weeks. We have a copy of the budget. 2018 budget is on the city website.
Okay.
Yes, sir, you are up.
Mayor, thank you, and Councilman and Councilman Moreno. You and I spent the morning together at Shade Valley Vocational Day about a year ago. So, folks, I've been working here for 35 years. I live in Woodlawn. I got about 300 families this is going to be a big effect on. For goodness sakes, consider sunsetting it. If nothing else, put an end to this thing. The referendum failed for whatever reason. The people that consume the services you try to provide for them said they don't want to pay for it. So in my humble opinion, you're coming after folks that have no voice, and that seems awfully lame to me. I can't get past that. I have nothing else to say. I'm very much against it, and I agree with Mr. Bates. But lastly, it's just absolutely serendipity that the next thing on your agenda, you're talking about tax abatement. Was that just to really just slap me in the face? That's just outrageous. At least do it next week, next meeting. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir. Now, did everybody basically sign in, because I'm going by the sign-in list? Do we have anyone that failed to sign in that would like to sign in and move that list forward? Okay, I think, Mr. Graham, you're listed as an individual. Do I still see you anywhere in the...
Graham?
He was here. Okay.
He doesn't want to.
Okay. Let's see. Got one other here, Gerald. Is it listed as an individual?
What's the name?
Oh, Sue Cocker? Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I am opposed to the occupation tax. One problem that I have, a significant problem I have with the occupation tax, and it's been referenced to before, is transparency. From the viewpoint that the ordinance was drafted, there seems to be, in my view, a lot of gaps in that ordinance. For example, those who are transient workers coming into Irondale, are they going to be subject to the tax? And if they are, how are you going to track them? It would seem inequity, those who are residing in Irondale, those who actually work full-time in Irondale, would be subject to the tax, but there's others who come into Irondale to work periodically and then leave. You're thinking of gardeners, landscapers, contractors. How are you going to track those individuals? But in addition, in the interest of transparency, it doesn't seem to me that there has really been due sufficient advance notice to have a really, like what you're having tonight, a special meeting, but then I understand there's going to be a vote immediately. And where's the town hall meeting? Where's the communication out to all the community? Where's the communication to all the individuals and all the businesses who might be affected before you get all the input, all the feedback from the community to determine, is this really the right move? Are there other alternatives that can be considered?
Thank you so much for your comments. At this point, based on the list I have, if you didn't sign in, I don't have your name. Is there any business represented in the room that hasn't spoken and would like to speak? Please.
We got one. We got one up there. There's one up there.
I'm Tim Roy with Peak Season, and I understand I don't necessarily generate a lot of revenue because I'm a wholesale business and I don't generate sales tax revenue. But from my perspective, I guess I'm concerned on both a personal level and from a business level. Personal level, I just invested $4 million into the city of Irondale when I renovated the property. $4 million of my own money that I'm looking now and saying the residents don't believe enough in the direction or the nature of to approve a very slight, what I consider a very slight property tax. And that causes me a lot of concern, but I guess in the end, that's my problem. I was the person that decided to invest, so I'll have to live with that. But at the same time, I think it's maybe been too long for some people since they live paycheck to paycheck. Because it was mentioned to me, it's only 1%. I mean, I'm sorry to say that 1% is substantial to a lot of my employees. And I'd ask you all to remember, when's the last time? That's what I try to do. You know, when we have a payroll problem, we mispay somebody, I go down and get the cash and hand them the cash because you can't miss payroll. I mean, in a business today, you need to be competitive. And I'm telling you, 1% to a lot of my employees isn't just 1%. It isn't just nothing. And if you think back to when you lived paycheck to paycheck, you might get a little better understanding of why some people are so opposed to this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your comments. Any other business representative? Please.
Sir, I signed up to speak. Patrick Campbell with EWTN.
Well, we've had one representative. We're trying to get single representatives from entities.
Okay.
Rather than have multiple if we can. Thank you.
Well, I heard the person speak, and the things that I have to say are not related in any way.
But we'll see if we've got time at the end. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Hey, my name's Mike Chapman. I'm the controller for Abatement, located here in Irondale. We moved into this area a couple of years ago, and I already talked to one of the owners today, and he told me that if he had known y'all were going to do this, we probably would not have located in Irondale. You know, this is kind of an anti-business agenda. You know, if you're looking to get new businesses to come to Irondale, this is one way to keep them from coming. As the gentleman stated a few minutes ago, 1% tax to our employees is a large number. We're an outside construction company, so a lot of our employees don't work in Irondale. They work on construction projects around the area. But, you know, when they come to our shop or the office employees and whatnot, it's a considerable tax to them because a lot of them, as he said, live paycheck to paycheck. You know, and as a business, you know, thinking about locating here, you know, we may look into moving elsewhere. But one of the big issues is, like he was talking about the employees, because we've already had some say, well, if this passes, y'all are going to have to give me a raise to make up the difference, or else I may look for a job somewhere else. So as a business, you know, it affects you directly. I would much rather see a property tax increase, and I saw the signs up, which we don't get to vote in Irondale because we don't live here. So You know, if the residents didn't pass that, why put the burden on people that don't live here to have to pay for what the people that live here won't even pay? So it's more fair to do a property tax increase than it is to tax employees, because some of them will look for jobs somewhere else, because 1%, I mean, we had people leave our company for 15 cents an hour raise. So
Thank you,
you
sir.
need to think about that kind of
Appreciate
stuff.
that. I see at least one representative from the car dealerships. Is there any comments from anybody from the car dealerships that you'd like to? All right. Okay, so, somebody from Collateral Properties understand? Okay, thank you.
Good evening. I'm Brian Ratliff, CEO of Collateral Properties, and I'm assuming we're the largest office space owner in the city. And the absence of a occupational tax has always been an advantage in recruiting businesses to come here. And this is obviously going to remove that amenity, and I think it's not a good thing. And if there are alternatives, I suppose that they'll be exhausted. I've talked with the mayor about retail, replacing Sam's Club. There are other players out there, and I think all the stops should be pulled out in that respect in terms of retail, regional retail. The auto mall has proven the significance of that location, and that's about it. But to me, this is common sense.
Thank you for your comments, sir. Are there any individuals that did not sign in? I'd be glad to take a few more before we move forward.
I signed out a form outside.
Well, please.
My name is Christopher Metcalf. The name of the company is Van Steel and Supply, and we've been in Irondale, I think, for about 35, 40 years. Unfortunately, when I pass this on to the people in our office, they stated that they will not be buying any food in Irondale, and they will be buying no more gas here in Irondale, because they think it's very unfair that the majority of what the city takes in comes from businesses, and the majority that the city spends goes to residents, and the residents showed to you they did not want to pay any more money, even though it's been 22 years and he only asked for a very small amount. I think it's a very terrible situation you're asking for, and I'm very similar to the gentleman over here. I have some property here I've tried to rent out, and everyone says the trouble with the trouble with Irondale is that every time you do something, they go under the table and trying to change it. E.g., when Dave Crowder was here, he changed the law, and when Alan Ramsey took over, he rechanged the law. So we're really running two lots of taxes for the businesses. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Please.
I just had a question. The only...
We're not doing questions, just comments right now. We'll be glad to do questions before we vote.
Okay.
Any additional comments from anyone in the audience, individual or business? Yes, ma'am.
From the very beginning of this, I was very concerned about the occupational tax, but the longer I thought about it, the more I thought about it, I could not justify not increasing it. A number of people that live in the city of Irondale pay an occupational tax because they work in Birmingham or other places that have occupational taxes. And I don't think that the people that work here realize that they will be paying for our firefighters to come put their fires out at their business. If someone has a heart attack, our firefighters and our EMTs and our ambulances will be coming to support them and to get them the help that they needed. If someone comes in with a gun and wants to shoot up your business, who do you think comes? Our police officers. And if this tax doesn't pay, I agree. I voted for the property tax. And if it comes again, I'll vote again for the property tax. But if this doesn't pass and we have to start laying off people, and don't tell me that's a scare tactic, because it's a very good thing that could it's a very real thing that could happen. And if they have to call out the firemen and they only have 4 firemen on duty, and I'm just using that as a number, I don't have any idea how many firemen we have on at one time or another. And I don't know how many police officers we have, but it's going to decrease in response time and decrease in the time that the ability of the people to do what needs to be done. So if you want your friends to die of a heart attack because we don't have the firemen or the EMTs, or if you want your business to be shot up, then say you don't want it.
Appreciate your comment. Any additional individual? Individual? Got one in the back first, please. And you, thank you. Appreciate that.
I just want to say that I'm blessed to work for an amazing company that's just moved here, Mercedes-Benz in Birmingham, and they really take care of their people. My wife is able to stay home with my child all day long and not have to worry about a thing. But people come into situations where this 1% tax increase will be all that they can afford. All the points have already been covered that I think on where your extra revenue goes that could help without having to tax the people that are here. But that's really all I got to say. I'm against this tax.
Thank you, sir. And I think I saw somebody that hasn't been represented. Yes, sir. No company. No company. No, okay.
No, I'll speak as an individual here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, first off, for the record, I want to say that I voted against the property tax. Now, that's not because it was a knee-jerk reaction where I was like, oh no, under no circumstances am I going to vote for any kind of extra added tax. Rather, I simply felt like there wasn't enough information about it to determine whether or not that was something we should do. I had a lot of questions about it, and I thought it was very reasonable and sensible to say no. And now here we are with a situation that's even it's even more diluted. And I just wonder, why can't there be transparency? Because this is our town too. We do care about our city. We do want there to be a good solution, but this just strikes me as so profoundly lazy. And the woman who said that...
please, sir, face this way. You're addressing the council.
Okay.
Not the audience.
The idea that our public services are going to suffer or be damaged because we didn't do a 1% increase. I made this comment in a letter I wrote to all of you earlier today that strikes me as a college student who says, Mom, I need more money for textbooks. Now, how could you say no to textbooks when really the kid has already blown his funds on who knows what, all kinds of ridiculous things that he doesn't feel obligated to mention? And I think transparency is not a bad thing. And again, as I said, this is our town. We care about it. We want it to do well. But involve us. I vote no on the tax. I don't think this is the way to do it. This is all I have to say.
Thank you. I would ask, a couple of people have come forward to speak but didn't hand the city clerk anything identifying them. We would appreciate that, to have the information for the record. Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Did we hear from the gentleman from EWT?
Well, let's first make sure we're not repeating anybody, and then we'll do one more, please. So, thank you for doing that. So no additional business or no additional individual. Okay, we will take at least one more comment from EWTN if you'd like to come forward. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Patrick Campbell, and I'm not here representing EWTN in any official capacity at all. However, I have been employed with EWTN for 23 years, and I also supervise a group of employees that work around the clock and do rely upon the city services from Irondale when needed. Fortunately, that has not been the case in the 23 years that I've been around. However, I've thought about the ways that the company that I work for, which again I'm not representing in any way, lends to the economy of the city of Irondale. Many of these employees that earn less than $40,000 a year, working for a nonprofit organization, which would have a 1% deduction in their income be a hardship, they eat within breakfast, lunch, and dinner. We're a 24-hour operation, and we have employees that go and eat in the restaurants throughout Irondale. I cannot imagine that there is another business in Irondale that lends to the tourism and puts people in hotels and puts other people in restaurants. This priest that's sitting in the front row, I've heard him week by week invite an international viewing audience to come and eat at the restaurants in Irondale, Alabama. So the other thing that I think is not looked at is the fact that the broadcasting industry, which makes up a great deal of our business, is a very expensive business. And the department that I work in personally has to buy equipment that is in the six-figure numbers. And we pay a sales tax on that to the city of Irondale. And so it's my view that an occupational tax would present an undue burden on employees that work in the city of Irondale. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. Thanks, sir. All right, okay. Would someone like to make a motion we leave public hearing and go back?
Make a motion, we leave public hearing and return to regular council meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, starting with the mayor, any comments to make before we go to the vote?
We got to approve the agenda first, I believe. Huh?
Well, no, we're going to do this, start with some conversation. We can go ahead.
Okay.
Either way.
I'll make a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, Paul.
Yeah, I'll just address the council on some of the things that I've heard here. You all know I don't have a vote in this, but I do have a voice just like these folks do, and I express my opinion on things as they come before you. I'll start out by saying, as I do and keep the timer on me because I'll go too long if you don't. I'll start out by saying that what I say every time I think about this is I don't like taxes. And I particularly don't like occupational tax. I do run a business here in Irondale, and I will be affected by it in a couple of ways outside of this position. And I pay it where my other job is as well. So do I like it? No, I don't like it. It was implemented in that particular town where my office is, and I started paying it, and quite honestly, after a month or so, I quit griping and didn't think any more about it. My wife pays it in the town that she works in, which is next door to us here, which is Leeds. I'll just say that I can't think of one example, and I know folks may disagree, but I haven't found one yet where a business has come or not come because of an occupational tax. Certainly there are thousands of examples in our metropolitan area here where it has not run off businesses or caused businesses to come or to go because of it. So I just haven't been able to find an example of that. No one's been able to point one single example of that. I can tell you where there are plenty of businesses. The city of Leeds has 1% occupational tax, and they are growing, and they are providing services for both the employers, the employees, and the residents there in a quite remarkable way. Since 2012, while this occupational tax has been in place there, they've added over 60 businesses, over 1,000 jobs. So the argument can be made that, it puts pressure on us to be competitive in the marketplace, but they're filling those positions. They have a new business getting ready to come in there that will be coming soon in Leeds at the first exit there, Bucky's Travel Plaza, and it's projected to have 200 employees. So yes, when the economy is good, the pressure comes. 200 employees, $25 million in retail, and because they're able to provide the services. I know you have a hard choice, a difficult choice, and you have to make we're all elected to serve the city of Irondale, have to make the decision that's best for the city of Irondale.
Thank you. Mr. Spivey.
Are we going to,
If you want to ask, if you have people that you might want to answer questions first, we have one gentleman that had a question.
there were a few things that I was jotting down as I was listening to everybody. A couple of things that I'll point out. We talked about the auto tax. I don't think it's necessarily off the table, but this is the direction that we're moving in first. Let's see here, sunset, that was something that I wanted to get into the initial draft. It was for very good reasons recommended that it was left out. I do encourage anyone who chooses to run for this position in 2.5 years that if they want to make that as part of their stance, then by all means, if that's it's the council's job to approve it or make it go away. So I encourage that type of feedback. The gaps in the ordinance, industries that slip through, that's going to be something that's going to be difficult. We will have to find ways to enforce that. But in order to enforce it, we have to have people to enforce things like that as well as other things that have to be enforced. Disappointment in residents for not passing the property tax. I heard that a few times, and I will agree that is a disappointment that I do share. Having to incentivize employees to make it up. I've heard that a few times as well. That is obviously something as business owners you guys will have to make the decision if y'all move forward in that direction or not. Move unanswered questions, more unanswered questions about the property tax. One thing I will say about the property tax is we had several town hall meetings on them, 2 of them. We discussed the property tax in length during multiple financial and council meetings. Other than knocking on every door, I really don't know personally what we could have done to get the word out even more. I know it went out into monthly, went out in the garbage bill, gave a way to calculate it. So we touched as many residents as we could. I know I'm highly involved in Facebook. I tried to respond to as many people as I could. Unfortunately, there's still not enough information out there for our residents to feel comfortable with it. So we are here where we are now. So those are my questions.
Did the question you have go to any particular council?
Yes.
Please,
Mr. Spivey, just curious if we're going to have an estimate of what this occupational tax will bring in before the vote.
I know Bubba gave some numbers. I was kind of curious as far as how maybe he came up with those numbers. I'm not sure if we have a very good estimate. One of the reasons I went ahead and advocated 1% was due to our deficit. I did not want to advocate half and then miss the target and then have to do this all over again. I wanted to go ahead and start at 1% because that was the best. That was the best way I could do the most I could to ensure that we would hit our target. I would love nothing more than to see this repealed or reduced as soon as possible.
Well, I'd just like to say that I am not in favor of raising any kind of tax if we don't have to. But the citizens of Irondale elected us to make difficult decisions, and I see 2 of them decided not to come to have to be a part of that decision tonight. But I just want to say that I've been paying, as the mayor said, occupational tax, I guess, for 30 years or more, in the city of Birmingham. Yet I don't, it's like any other tax, I don't even notice it anymore. It's just what my paycheck says when I get home every other week. I'm not in favor of it, but there comes a time when we have to make decisions that are not favorable, and even decisions that we don't like to make. And I'm just sorry this is the time that one of those decisions has to be made.
Any additional questions from the audience? Mr. Stewart, do you mind making a comment on the drawdown on the reserves?
Here's one. We do have a question.
I have a question.
Would you please come forward if you don't mind? Thank you.
As a resident of Irondale, I would like to know if things like the tax increase, the property tax, maybe didn't pass because over the course of the years that I've lived here, about 20 now, I have seen such mismanagement, or I'm not quite sure what it is, but the city has fallen apart step by step by step. It seems like when we've had opportunities to have some growth and do some things that counted, it went to the wayside. I mean, we lost Sam's now, we've lost Walmart. Yes, we got a car dealership, but people talk about restaurants here. I mean, they're slim pickings in Irondale. I mean, it just doesn't seem like you have taken the money that you've received through the course of the years and put it to good use. And now you're asking people, I mean, I actually work and live in Irondale. And I just want to know, do you think some of the reason people are not thrilled with pushing out more money? And quite honestly, you're saying you don't feel taxes, you don't pay taxes. I do. I'm sorry that when I shell out 10% at the grocery store, another 1% here, you know, my federal tax, I feel taxes a lot in every pocket I've got. So I'm just wondering, what kind of restrictions are you going to put on yourselves here as far as where the money goes, how you're going to spend it, how you're going to improve Irondale? I don't know. I mean, is it where we're going to have our tax increased and then you're going to get a nice little raise or what? I mean, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. And I mean, you don't know how heartbreaking it was to drive by that giant gorilla day after day going home and thinking, what is wrong with this city? I mean, I grew up in San Diego. My grandchild, that is a beautiful city, but come on, guys. If you're not going to do any better than you've done, don't take any more money than you've got from us. That's it.
Please, a question earlier, if you don't mind. Mr. Stewart, would you just make a quick comment about the reserves and what it does to us, the drawdown?
At the present time, when we started fiscal year 2018, the city had a deficit of $700,000. Once Sam's moved out of the community, that added another $900,000 to the $700,000. So for this fiscal year, we're projecting a net loss of $1.6 million. When we move to FY 2019, the city has a $1.4 million deficit because of the Sam's not being there, and we never eradicated the $700,000 deficit that we had in 2018. So if you put the $700,000 plus the 1.4, you will end up with $2.1 million projected for a deficit in 2019. We have $3 million in reserve. 1.6 plus 2.1 equals 3.7. You only have $3 million in reserve, so at the end of 2019, the city will have a deficit of approximately $700,000 in reserve. How does that affect the city? Because the city have bonds in the market, there's a certain amount of coverage that we're supposed to have for those bonds. But if we exhaust our reserve fund to be able to fill the gap that we currently have in the budget, then we will not meet those expectations. Then that information now goes out into the bond market and it depicts a picture of the city of Irondale. Currently, we have a AA rating, but if we draw on those reserves and end up with a negative figure, it will probably affect that rating.
Have you prepared the 2019 budget? Has it been approved by the city council?
We have not prepared the budget, but with all things being equal, that's what we're looking at.
You don't know about revenues.
Please, we have one individual in the back.
You'll need to come up there or back here.
You need to please come
Okay.
forward if you would.
Good evening. Everybody here, this shows the concern that I have lived in Irondale 17 years. Never have we had a conversation of this magnitude before. And I think my concern is, what direction are we going in? How did we get to this point? I understand what you're saying about how the AA rating looks, but we're in a mess. We're in a mess, and it concerns me. I don't know what the quick fix is, if there is one. I think we have a median income of about, what, $47,000, but we are building $500,000 home. Sam's Club is gone, and I don't know how much of an investment has been made into our children and our schools, but we still are no closer to a grocery store than we were years ago. So it's not just everyone sitting in here. These are my neighbors. We're neighbors. There's a hallway full of people who want to know, what direction are we going in as a city? And even with or without Sam's Club, did we ever think about the possibility of them leaving? And if so, was any kind of economic development thought about? A plan B beyond chamber meetings and hosting coaches? This is serious. And as I mentioned, everybody that's in here and out there, all the way out to the outside, cannot get in here. We haven't seen this many people probably down here since election time. But we're here because we are concerned. And my question is, where does Irondale go from here? And does anybody have any kind of semblance of an answer or some kind of forecast that gives us a little bit of hope
Thank you,
when we
ma'am.
leave this evening? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think at this point, unless somebody has something significantly different than already been stated, something significantly different, please. Thank you.
My name is Charles Agnew. I work for UBT, and that doesn't matter. I did live in Irondale for 19 years of my life before I got all my ducks in a row and bought a house and got a family. And me and my wife were like, oh yeah, let's get buy a house. And we said, oh, we like this area. And then we realized the taxes are too high. And so we moved 30 minutes out into Pell City, where it's cheaper to live already, so that we can have a life. We only make $55,000 a year. I've got another kid on the way. I've got a daughter on the way. I've got one and one on the way, 2 under 2. You're taking money out of my wallet to fund a city that I don't live in because the taxes were too high. So my question is what are you going to do with the money that you're taking out of my family's mouth? That's my question.
Okay, I think we've reached that. Mayor, did you want to redirect on your list of what we may address with some of the funding, or do you? And then we'll call it for the vote.
Yeah, I can just say generally, this is just my opinion to the council, but if you choose to pass this and if there are funds to decide what you do with, Certainly my recommendations are, first of all, you will resolve the current budget deficit that we're in at this point in time. And then I think you should focus on replenishing the reserve funds so that we get to an acceptable level of reserve. And then I think, assuming that we still have funds remaining, which some people think we're going to have a lot, a boatload, and some maybe not so much, but if we do, then I think we should improve and enhance the services that the employers, the employees, and the residents expect here. We've provided a very high level of service. We have the outstanding and first rate in all of our departments that we have here. Start with the police department, the fire department, the public works, the senior center, the library, the water department. We have great services here, but to have great services, you got to pay for it. And so I think then the funds need to be applied in enhancing and improving those services. And then, as someone has just said, we need to plan and prepare for the future. There's a lot of talk about mismanagement. There's a lot of talk about, where do the funds go? And I can only speak for the last year and a half that I've been a part of this administration. I cannot be responsible or really speak intelligently of all the things that went on before. But I can tell you what's been done now. We have cut, we have reduced. We have about 100, at full staff, about 160 employees here. We have 17 to 20 vacancies that we've chosen not to fill, which is about $1 million. We've gone back to our departments twice, now 3 times with this discussion, and telling them you need to find any fat, you need to find anything, and it's not fat. They're getting to the bone. They're peeling off the skin and getting to the bone now. We cannot continue to provide the level of services that these employees have expected and utilized, these employers have expected and utilized, and our residents have expected and utilized. We cannot continue to to provide that level of service unless we're willing to pay. And it's your job to figure out as a council, how do we pay for it? Or do we not provide it? And I know you'll have some say, cut that service, cut this service, but it's always the service that I don't use that I don't mind you cutting. That's the one that I want you to cut. I want you to cut the one that I don't care about. I want you to cut the one that I don't utilize, and we're all that way. That's our human nature, is to say, yeah, cut that out because it doesn't affect me. But when it affects me, then I'm more concerned about it. So it does concern us. None of us like taxes. None of us like to pay, but we like the benefit that comes from it. I can only make a commitment for myself, as I have done for the year and a half that I've been here. There is no one who has been more frugal and fiscally responsible than myself in bringing stuff to you all and saying we can't spend that because we don't have the money to do it. And that's why we're facing this, because of the debt from years past and because of living beyond our means. I hear you when you say you got to look within. I hear you, and I do that too. But we've got to start somewhere. We can't say, yeah, you need to live within your means, but you need to start tomorrow or 6 months ago or whatever. We got to start now. And so I just leave it with you. I think those are the 4 things that you need to do. If you approve it and you have funds, you need to solve the budget problem now. You need to replenish the reserves. You need to enhance the services that we all expect, and then plan for growth in the future. And I actually think it is an opportunity for us to move this city forward and not be looking around saying, well, they're worse than us or they're better than us because or whatever. I think we can lead the way in some of these things. So.
Okay, at this point, Councilor Spivey is the original sponsor.
Sure. Thank you, sir. I make a motion that ordinance 2018-10 be adopted and read, and approved as read.
Do I have a second? Second. Okay. All those in favor, we'll just do a quick vote.
Yes.
Yes. I will say no because comments tonight, but again, that carries. And we'll move on to new business. And we have the group from Motion Industries here with people.
Don't come back Thursday for this rezoning out here of the public buildings. We're going to put a raceway in. It's not going to give them all the public use. From the C1 to the C2. And raise that right there. Don't approve it just like this.
You lost some weight from last time.
The meeting's not adjourned yet. Call for a break.
Why don't we do that? Take about a 10-minute break, and then we'll reconvene.
Didn't have a place to put it. Didn't have a building to put the firemen here told us that all our stuff is working while we maintain it. We'd rather have a raise.
We don't, did they get your votes?
No, sir.
Do they have a fence around your place that keeps it secure? So don't do your I figured I'd come see some Senate discourse.
Yeah, I got my food. Oh, good, thank you, yeah. I just got a here. Higher tax rate? And state
Give me special tax refunds where big business like this. Give us a leverage.
If we can get everyone to start drifting back in, please, we'd appreciate it. We'll try to crank back up here in a minute.
Which one do you want? I just want to see what the next one is. No, oh no.
Once everybody gets settled down, if everybody would please take your seat. Okay, the first order of business will be a motion by me to reconsider the vote on 201810.
I would second that motion.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And would you like to put it back, I guess, put it back on the floor?
Sure, to revisit unfinished business, I make a motion for the approval of the ordinance 2018-10 as read on the agenda.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Second that and call for a roll call vote.
Okay, Counselor Spivey.
Yes.
Counselor Bearden?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Okay, we move on to new business, if you would. Would someone like to put that
Sure.
on the floor,
I
please?
make a motion for the approval of resolution 2018-R-31.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Want to do a roll call on that one real quickly? Counselor Spivey?
I vote yes.
Yes.
Yes, myself, yes. So that passes. Are y'all still here?
I'm here.
Would you like to make any comments, just in general? It did pass.
Yes. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you very much. And under public comment, you would like to make a comment, you say? Oh, okay, thank you. All right. Yes, ma'am.
I guess it's a question, not a comment. What by definition is considered public notice as far as the proper public notice for rezoning issues that are coming up on Thursday?
15 days.
15 days to who? Or who?
15 days to the individuals which are 500 feet away from the property that's being rezoned.
Okay, so the commercial property out here at 1900 Crestwood Boulevard that's up for rezoning from Commercial 1, which is offices and businesses that y'all just approved an occupational tax on. Thursday night, y'all are having a rezoning meeting along with a final approval plat for Martin Evans or whoever's name's on there. And I've been told from the best information I can get, which was not clear nor expedient, that y'all are going to be putting a racetrack or a raceway in there. And that's right next to the
Would you
Exxon.
please come up to the mic so we can all hear what's saying?
My name's Laura Lowe, LOWP. I work in Irondale and live at 2165 Higby Lane over in Amber Hills. So where I work, got the notification because we're within 500 feet. They are looking for a C1 to C2 change. So it's going from offices and office space, which we just approved an occupational tax for, to C2, which is warehouse, gas stations and all. And your building inspector and Kelly Womack said that that's a racetrack or raceway or somebody coming and wants to put in a gas station. Y'all looking at me like y'all don't
Well,
know what I'm
because,
talking about.
okay, let me respond.
No, ma'am. I think your comment for that would be more appropriate at the planning and zoning meeting. You've asked your question, but again, till it comes up at the planning and zoning meeting.
May I respond? Yeah, may I respond? That is the reason they're looking at you like that is because it has not come to them yet. It's in an earlier stage. It's going to planning and zoning. It'll be heard by planning and zoning. Planning and zoning will make a recommendation either in favor or not, or no recommendation at all. Then that will come to the council and they will know what you're talking about at that point.
We have no idea what you're talking about.
What is planning and zoning's legal, procedural obligation to notify the public?
I think you just answered that question for you.
No, he answered that, no, that's not what y'all's own website says. You have to give that notification in addition to public notification. There are no signs on that property that say rezoning. There's no,
Okay,
there's nothing out there. So I'm wanting to know, if I did not live within 500 or work within 500 feet, how would I know?
That will be a question for you to ask planning and zoning when that meeting comes up.
Well, y'all have the same obligation, don't you? To give public
It has not come to this body yet. I mean, that's
What
all I
is-
can
what's
say.
this body
That's all I can
for? What
say.
is the public, what do y'all do to notify the public of meetings of this nature, whether it's city council or planning and zoning?
For city council meeting or the public and zoning meeting, by law, we're required to post it out front on the bulletin board.
And that's it?
Yes.
Okay. And I think the citizens need to kind of know that, because most of the places that I have lived and worked usually go to a little bit more effort to make sure that anyone that might be affected that lives there or drives by there or whatever would know, not just the 40 people
that are within the 500 foot.
Yeah, but the law part of it, since you asked about the
That's
law.
why I asked, because I
Yeah,
don't
the
know
law
what
says,
notice
yeah,
is.
the law says that you take the center of the building and you only have to do 500 feet from radius outside of that building. So all of the people that were 500 feet have been notified about that, and if
No
they have.
problem with that, it's the public part I have a problem.
How would you suggest that we notify 18,000 people living within Irondale?
Electronically. Email, you can call the news seems to like to
We
know
don't
what's
have
going
18,000
on.
emails.
Do you have 5, 10, 15, 20?
I think this is a moot discussion at this point. We're posting according to it. There's also 2 other locations where it's posted. It is placed on the city website and on the city Facebook page, and that's always done within the time required by state law.
And what if I don't have internet?
Like I say, it's posted at 2 other locations.
I'm just suggesting y'all could do better in your public
Right.
notification.
Thank you.
And awareness to people.
Appreciate
to
your
save
comments,
some of
ma'am.
the frustration that y'all.
Duly noted. Thank you.
Steve, I do have one question.
Go
This
ahead.
might be a better question for Patricia. I know the previous website had a calendar in it where all those meetings were noted. That's been done as well. I know one thing that was nifty about the calendar was that you could actually import it into your Google Calendar if you use something like that. If you happen to notice a meeting of interest, you could always reach out to the chair of that board. I'm sure they would be more than happy to give you the agenda.
Also, the city,
I called the city
also the
inspector's
city, I'm
office 2
speaking
weeks
just a
ago,
moment.
still haven't gotten it.
Also, the city clerk notifies anyone that requests notification by email. You'll give him your email address. You will get all of those notifications from the city clerk.
Okay. Any additional comments? Mr. Spivey or Mr. Bearden?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? Thank you.
Take a vote after everybody left.
After everybody
And
left,
he
I voted
voted.
for it.
He voted
He made it official.